Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today we're going to look at the studio discography of The Who, or The Who, however you like to say it. All right, a legendary British rock band who's been around now for over 50 years, just wowing audiences left and right for so long, as long as I've been alive, right? I've been a fan of this band since I was a little kid. Not a huge discography, though, for a band that's been around for so long. I mean, they had like periods of inactivity, lengthy periods of inactivity. They were never a prolific album band, but man, do they have some classics, okay? They got some albums that aren't quite as strong, but no denying the legendary status of these guys. So I'm going to start off, as I always do, from my least favorite album to my absolute favorite album. You know, I think the bottom half could kind of change here and there. I don't dislike any of their albums. A couple of them I don't really listen to much. They're not that great, but some real standouts here. So let's get started. Why don't we? So I'm going to go off at the bottom of the barrel. An album when it came out, I kind of dug because it had been so long. But I think over time, it's like I listen to this and I'm kind of like, it's just kind of lacking something. It's a little bit, I don't know, it's just hard to explain. When I first got it, I kind of thought that, but I was like so ecstatic to get a new Who album. I'm talking about Endless Wire. It's not terrible by any means, but it's just like hard to pinpoint what my issue with this album is. It's pleasant, okay, it's got some decent tracks on it. The Wire and Glass little mini opera thing is pretty cool. The Endless Wire regular part of the album is okay. It's just missing something. Not really sure what. All right, it's just missing something. So I'm gonna put that at the bottom. Again, could change with either of the next two. Next towards the bottom, I'm gonna go with Face Dances. Again, a band in transition. Mooney left us. Kenny Jones from the Faces comes in on drums. Fine drummer. Maybe not a perfect fit for this band. As they're going into the 80s now, music's changing a little bit. That kind of raucous Who that we all knew and loved sounded like Elder Statesman here. I mean, You Better You Bet, Don't Let Go of the Coat, a couple other decent tunes. I don't know. I remember when this first came out, I found this album just kind of bland and not really rocking enough for me. And I still think that all these years later. But polished album, all right. Production's nice. Songs, have a nice sheen to them. But it's just, again, I just found it kind of bland. As I did this one, it's hard. But I like this one a little bit better than Face Dances. I mean, it's got it's got Eminence Front on it and Athena. All right, the title track is a fine song. There's some other strong songs on here as well. But again, top shelf Who, not really. And I have found over the years, I've listened to these three very little. When I'm in the mood to hear The Who, it's not one of these albums I reach for. Can't say that they're terrible because they're not. And every once in a blue moon, I want to kind of hear some of those songs, but I don't know. It just doesn't quite do it for me. I think this new album, called Who, is a step in the right direction, and I think much more listenable than either of those three, my own personal opinion. And I think a fun album and a very memorable album that's got like a handful of good Who-style rockers. Of course, they're a lot older now these days, but as well as some kind of more kind of pop type stuff, right? All the Music Must Fade. That's classic Who stuff right there. Gotta love it. Ball and Chain's a strong song. I Don't Want to Get Wise, fun. Detour. Secret Song, I'll Be Back. Break the News. I like it. I've been listening since this first came out a couple months ago. I have listened to this quite a bit, and dig it. I dig it. I'm hoping that it holds up over time, because I remember when Endless Wire first came out, I was thinking, yeah, I kind of like this, this is good, and then, but I can honestly say I probably listened more to Who than I ever listened to Endless Wire, and that's got a lot of years, right, in between them. So, next up, I think of the classic period, easily my least favorite album by the band, okay, The Who by Numbers. Very decent, okay, and some spectacular songs on here. Slip Kid, Squeeze Box, However Much I Booze. A lot of people dig that. Dreaming from the Waist, okay, good. What else? Imagine a Man's okay. Success Story. I think the first half of the album, pretty strong, and then it kind of peters out towards the end. I think that this was probably a point in time where Mr. Townsend was kind of hitting a little bit of a lull. The ideas weren't really flowing, and he talked about that quite a bit. If you read any of his autobiography, any of his books, he talks about how he just kind of hit a creative wall at one point. And after you got things like Tommy and Who's Next and Quadrophenia, but pumping out a lot of great material. The well doesn't go on forever, right? It gets dry at some point. All right, next up, I'm going to go to the very first album, My Generation. Those first couple albums, the really early stuff, kind of a different band, a very young band, very naive band, a very powerful and raw band. All right, Townsend's songwriting not quite going yet in the direction that we would come to know, starting with Tommy, but you start to see the seeds, right? But again, the Who, as well as like the Stones and the Beatles, very big singles band at the time, right? So at that mid '60s, it was all about singles, not as much about albums yet. But My Generation, The Kids Are All Right, I'm a Man, The Ox, Legal Matter. All right, you also had I Can't Explain single coming out as well. So a fun album of a very, very young Who, energetic as all hell, just starting to gel as a band. It's a good album. It's a very good debut, right? Not top shelf Who in my opinion, but still very, very notable. I'm going to go with the Who Sell Out next. I call their Baked Bean and Deodorant album, right? Again, very similar. Came out shortly thereafter My Generation. All right. Marianne with the Shaky Hands. Right. I Can See for Miles. Tattoo. Some Who staples on here for sure. A fun album from a young band. All right, next up, I'm going to go with Who Are You? Last album of Keith Moon. Maybe starting to lose a little steam by here, but still some excellent, excellent songs on here. Give Me a New Song Any Day, great song. Had Enough is great. Sister Disco, very underrated track. Music Must Change. Trick of the Light, great heavy rock song from the Ox. Guitar and Pen, kind of majestic, love that. Of course, Who Are You, right? Just a very solid late 70s record from the Who. And probably their last bordering on great album. Okay, I don't know if I call this a great album, but it's pretty close, pretty damn close. All right, next up, I'm going to go dip into the early part of the career. I actually like a quick one quite a bit. I think this is obviously just prior to Tommy. I think Townsend is just starting to come into his own with the songwriting here. I think the band is really gelling big time here. The title track, A Quick One While He's Away, is fantastic. And I know here in the States they released this, I think it was called Magic Bus, if I'm not mistaken. Boris the Spider, Heat Wave, great version of that, right? You got Whiskey Man, I Need You. All sorts of fun things on this album. Barbara Ann, the Batman theme, it's just all sorts of wackiness going on here that I kind of like, but really, really energetic performances by the band. So, My Generation, The Who Sell Out in this, they kind of all three go hand in hand. Really fun albums, though, of a really young band who was just on the verge of greatness. All right, the top three doesn't get much better than these. arguably the three best albums by any band of that period. You know, you can stack these three albums up against the three best from the Beatles, the three best from the Stones, the three best from the Kinks, so on and so forth. It's very rare that you get a band to release three albums in a row of this magnitude. All right. And, you know, your mileage may vary on which ones you like the best. I know there are people like myself who idolize Tommy. There are people I know who hate Tommy. Same thing with, you know, Quadrophenia, so on and so forth. But for me, these albums are masterful. The order could change depending on my mood, but I love all three. There's not much to separate them. I'm going to go with number 3 with Quadrophenia. A fantastic concept piece, all right? Arguably Townsend's best songwriting here. Okay, and the arrangements, the musical arrangements are just absolutely fantastic. This is sophisticated Who, powerful Who, very artsy Who. I know there are people who are like, oh, there's plenty of prog on Quadrophenia. Yeah, maybe you could say that, right? The Real Me, Punk and the Godfather, I'm the One. All right, 515, so many great songs on here. I Am the Sea, Dr. Jimmy, man, that's just so many stellar tracks on here. All right, I've had enough. Man, you could just go through the entire track list. Just fantastic stuff. I dig that quite a bit. I'm going to rank Tommy a little bit higher, coming in at number 2 for me. You know, I often talk about when you're ranking albums and talking about which ones mean the most to you. In most cases, those albums had an impact on us at certain points in our lives, right? So for me, Tommy is the first Who album I ever really got into. Well, I'll preface that by saying The Kids Are Alright was the first album I really got into, the soundtrack to the film, and immediately I went out and bought Tommy after I got that. And I've lived with Tommy for a good chunk of my life, and I always really kind of, connected with it. And I always thought that, and if you know me, if you've been following this channel, I'm a big live album fan, especially live albums from that era. So I absolutely love so many of the live performances of Tommy from the Who's live albums from that era, whether it be Leeds or the Isle of Wight or the, Hull, is that what it's called? I forget the date after the Leeds, I forget, Hull University, I think it is. And various other recordings, Woodstock, again, where they would play this in its entirety or close to its entirety, and it just even takes on even more power. And I just love so many of the themes from this album. Okay, so many just the great individual tracks, but a lot of great musical themes. Okay, the overture, right? Amazing Journey, Sparks, incredible instrumental, right? Cousin Kevin, The Acid Queen, Man, I'm Free, We're Not Gonna Take It, See Me, Feel Me, Pinball Wizard, Smash the Mirror. But the thing is, the album works so well from start to finish for me. For me, if I want to listen to Tommy, I don't want to hear individual tracks. I want to listen to the whole thing through and through. That's just me. That's the way it was written. That's the way it was meant to be played. And for me, that's the way it's meant to be listened to. Some of you may vary. There's a lot of people I know who are not big on this as a whole. They like individual tracks. They like the hit singles, whatever. But for me, it's one of the best concept albums ever written, ever created, ever put to wax, to vinyl, to CD, whatever. I really dig it. And I think most of the time I prefer it ever so slightly to Quadrophenia, but I think they're both almost on par with each other. Like I said, there might be some days I may be like, yep, I like Quadrophenia a little bit better, but for the most part, it's got to be Tommy just because I have a little bit more time with it, right? It's a little bit more invested in it. But their best album, the Who's best album, is got to be Who's Next. Get the deluxe edition here, folks. It's incredible. 2 discs of earth-shattering music, all right? A band at its absolute peak. Just Townsend's songwriting, the band's musical skills, Daltrey's vocals. It's just amazing. So many classics here. Won't Get Fooled Again, Baba O'Reilly, My Wife, Going Mobile, Bargain, all right? Behind Blue Eyes. And then, from the same sessions, you got all these other, Pure and Easy and Water and just so many great tracks. Getting in tune. It's like if they would have released it as the double album it was intended to, the whole Lighthouse project, just imagine what that would have been. And this deluxe edition has the Young Vic live show on it, where they basically kind of played it like it was originally intended to be released. But just one anthem after another on here. Fantastic songwriting. The production is stellar. It arguably, and I don't think there'd be too many people who would disagree with you, a desert island disc for many people. Easily in, the top 50 rock albums of all time. I don't think many people would argue that either. Some might even say it's a top 10 or 20, right? Depends on what you like. But when it comes to classic rock, all right, classic rock means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. To me, you look up classic rock in the dictionary, and this is one of the things that comes up underneath it, right? And it's got a great album cover, too. I was almost going to wear my Who's Next shirt today, but I felt I would have given it all away, so I had a couple of Who shirts. I figured I'd get this one, kind of raucous one with Pete doing the windmill on the guitar, right? Okay, so there you have it. Ranking the studio albums of The Who. Also, I want to give a mention, because I know you guys are going to mention it, right? I only do on these shows, or I generally do, just studio albums of all new material. I don't do live albums. I don't do compilations. I don't do the rarity sets and all that kind of stuff. But I do want to mention, because like I said, I know a bunch of you are going to bring it up, couple very good collections, Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy and Odds and Sods, all right? Odds and Sods, both of which contain like singles and B-sides and alternate versions and unreleased tracks and have a wealth of really good material. They're both worthwhile. I didn't include them in this because I only do kind of the studio albums of all new material that the bands released during their lifetimes. Those are kind of, released later on and all this kind of stuff, and where they just kind of go through the vault. So while a lot of them are fun and enjoyable and we love them and they're noteworthy, it's a little bit different. All right, that's why I don't include them on these shows. All right, that's why if the band has a lot of live albums, I may do a ranking the live albums type of thing, like I did with Deep Purple. I may even do it with The Who, because I got so many live albums, so many good ones. But yeah, let's go back and cover my favorites here. Let's start from the top, go to the bottom. Who's Next is number 1 for me. Tommy is number 2. Quadrophenia is number 3. A Quick One, number 4. Who Are You, number 5. The Who Sellout, number 6. My Generation, number 7. Who by Numbers is number 8. Who is 9. It's Hard, coming in at number 10. Face Dances, number 11. And Endless Wire, number 12. Hard to believe, only 12 official studio albums in all those years, right? 50 plus years. I guess sometimes it's quality over quantity, right? The Who were never, maybe early in their career cranking out an album a year, but throughout the 70s, not very prolific, and then kind of broke up for a while, got back together, continued to tour, didn't bother with recorded studio albums for a long time. And now we've got 2 in the last, when did Endless Wire come out? What year was this? 2008? Am I correct in seeing that? 2006, all right? So it took almost 14 years for The Who to come out with another album since Endless Wire. Time well spent, because I happen to really like Who. Anyway, curious to see how you guys rank the Who catalog, all right? That's what this is all about, is to get everybody to stop and think about which Who albums they love the most, which ones they love the least, and rank them, or at least, talk about them. Why do we love these albums so much? Why don't we love these albums so much? Remember, we all hear these albums differently. They all mean different things to all of us, so there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just a matter of personal preference, all right? So curious to see what you guys think, all right? Which ones you love and why, all right? I have a feeling we're going to agree on a lot of the ones at the top, right? But I'd be interested to see what you guys think about some of the ones that I don't kind of care for as much. I know there's going to be fans out there, and like I said, I don't dislike any of them by any means. But I just, the bottom 3 I don't really listen to that much, all right? The Who by Numbers, not quite as good as some of the ones that came before it. The early albums, a lot of fun, a lot of good tracks on them, not a lot of great tracks, but fun because of, the early Who, and then, of course, that, early 70s period. Late 60s, early 70s. Hard to top that. Anyway, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the mighty YouTube all the damn time. What do we got coming up? It's happening tomorrow. For all of you who have been asking and asking and asking for the last month, UFO. Going to rank the studio albums tomorrow morning. That's what you got tomorrow. I'm not sure what else I'm going to be squeezing in this weekend, but we'll see how it goes. All right. So you don't want to miss that. And so we'll see you then. All right. Take care. Have a good night. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. All right. Go take your sweetheart out tonight. Have a good time, or stay home and cook a nice meal. Cuddle up, watch some movies, whatever it is you do for fun. Make sure you spend it with your loved one tonight. All right, guys? We'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.